Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone from Eastern Canada.
Good morning.
Haribol. We want to welcome everyone to the Prabhupada Disciples Association Saturday morning Bhagavad-gītā As It Is class with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu and all of the members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association that are participating with us in our efforts to revive the Sankirtan movement globally, following in the footsteps of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. And I wanted to comment, first of all, that we do read exclusively from the original unedited books by His Divine Grace. This is a very important point because the books that are currently being distributed by his movement have been changed. And the change of the books does change the message. And it is critical for us as members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association to remind everyone that this particular deviation is not what Srila Prabhupada wanted for us or for the people that we're preaching to. So very critical point and very important for us to remember that. So I wanted to say before we start our reading that our classes have been well received by people all over the world because of this authenticity that we're providing for the new people that are trying to learn how to become a devotee. This is a process of learning how to change your character, how to rise up out of the modes of nature, how to become free from envy. This is a critical aspect of making advancement, is to change your character and become more fixed up as a first-class human being. This is critical to the evolution of our movement. And so this process of sadhana that we've introduced, because that's what this is, it is a sadhana program that we run every week. On Wednesdays, we have the Chaitanya Charitamrita class. Saturday and Sunday, Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam classes. There's 3 classes a week that we're volunteering our time to do. And we appreciate all of your participation and your interest in expanding this to as many people as possible. Before we get started with our reading of the diary, which we've been doing at the beginning of the class, I wanted to mention that we've reached 10,000 people in the Prabhupada Disciples Association group on Facebook. So this is very positive, and it's going to keep growing, maybe to 50,000 group members. So we appreciate all of you spreading this information to other people and seeing our wonderful posts that we're putting up from all different types of devotees on Prabhupada's messages to the world. So here we go. Now we're at March 2nd, 1966. I don't know if we have our production team. Yes. We're going to go back to the letter first by airmail. I think I sent it as the first one. Thank you very much. So this is a secretary to the Prime Minister by airmail. This is a secretary to the Prime Minister of India. February 25th, 1966. Dear Swamiji, the Prime Minister of India has seen your letter of February 8th, 1966. She appreciates the spirit which has prompted you to carry the spiritual messages of the Srimad Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam to other countries. Owing to the critical foreign exchange situation which the country is facing, it is greatly regretted that it will not be possible to assist you from here in your plan to set up a Hare Krishna temple. Yours sincerely, L.J. Jha. And it's to Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami, room 307, 100 West 72nd Street, New York, New York. And just note, everyone, how humble Prabhupada was living, extremely austere. Yet his consciousness was in a much elevated position. And here he's reaching out to the Prime Minister of India from his room in New York City, making an effort to try to get support for spreading the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we'll go to March 2nd, 1966. Today in the morning, I went to see Mr. L. Malhotra in connection with renewal of passport after June 1966. The application with letter of forwarding submitted, extension up to June 30th, 1966, already allowed. It is referred to New Delhi, and by confirmation from there, the passport will be renewed at least for 1 year more. So Prabhupada is very meticulous here. Remember, he was living in Vrindavan, a very, very simple life. And then all of a sudden, here he is doing all of this technical work to stay in America and coordinating himself perfectly as a super expert devotee of Lord Chaitanya. A devotee is expert. Expenditure, bus fare, 30 cents. My eyes are watering here. Dr. Mishra gave me a pot for drinking milk. Chandra Shekhar sent a letter for seeing the passport office in New Delhi to expedite the reply. Income contribution, $3. Robert bought some whole wheat flour. Cohen brought the Sankirtan pitcher. There were some defects, so taken back for rectification. And Cohen bought 1 cotton jersey for me. Thanks. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We'll listen to the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and we'll have the Bhagavad-gītā reading and discussion given by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna tiro banachari. Jamuna tiro banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa. Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa. Jamuna tiro banachari. Jamuna tiro banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Amasva Paramahansa Parivrajaga-ācārya Sattare Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Nāma-ācārya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khand Radha Khand Girivardhan ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Navadvip Dham ki Jai. Ganga Mai की जाए, जमुना माई की जाए, न्यू द्वारका धाम की जाए, स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए, और ग्लोरी टू देयर सिमरन, और ग्लोरी टू देयर सिमरन. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
ओम अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान् अन्वितं तं सजीवं सद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादं सहगुणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते. तप्त कंचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो Vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Bhagavad-gītā As It Is. As it has been mentioned previously, we are reading from the non-edited, non-adulterated original version of Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, the 1972 Macmillan edition. Today we will be reading from chapter 8, text 18, 19, and 20. All synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Text 18. Avyakta devyaktaya saravaha prabhavanti aharagame ratriyagame pradiyanti tatreva vyakta sangyaki. Avyaktat, from the unmanifest, vyaktayaha, living entities, saravaha, all, prabhavanti, come into being, aha agame, at the beginning of the day, ratri agame, at the fall of night, praniyante, are annihilated, tatra, there, eva, certainly, avyakta, the unmanifest, sangyake, called. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When Brahma's day is manifest, this multitude of living entities comes into being, and at the arrival of Brahma's night, they are all annihilated. Purport. The less intelligent jivas try to remain within this material world and are accordingly elevated and degraded in their various planetary systems. During the daytime of Brahma, they exhibit their activities, and at the coming of Brahma's night, they are annihilated. In the day, they receive various bodies for material activities, and at night, these bodies perish. The jivas, individual souls, remain compact in the body of Vishnu, and again are manifested at the arrival of Brahma's day. When Brahma's life is finally finished, they are all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions and millions of years. Finally, when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, the jivas are captivated by the material world. However, those intelligent beings who take to Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Rama in devotional service transfer themselves, even in this life, to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. Text 19. Bhuta grama sevayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratriyagame avasaparta prabhavati aharagame. Bhuta grama, the aggregate of all living entities. Sa, they. Eva, certainly. Ayam, this. Bhutva, taking birth. Praliyate, annihilate. Ratri, night. Agame, on arrival. avashaha, automatically. Partha, O son of Pritha, prabhavanti, manifest. Aha, during daytime. Agame, on arrival. Translation. Again and again the day comes, and this host of beings is active. And again the night falls, O Partha, and they are helplessly dissolved. Text 20. Parastasmat tu bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yah sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatshu navinashyati. Paraha, transcendental. Tasmat, from that. To, but. Bhavaha, nature. Anyaha, another. Avyaktaha, unmanifest. Avyaktat, from the unmanifest. Sanatanaha, eternal. Yah, that. Sa, which. Sarveshu, all. Bhuteshu, manifestation. Nashyatsu, being annihilated. Na, never. Vinashyati, annihilated. Translation. Yet, there is another nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Purport. Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal. It is beyond all the changes of material nature, which is manifest and annihilated during the days and nights of Brahmā. Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. Superior and inferior nature are explained in the 7th chapter, text 21. Avyakto kshara'ityuktas tamahuhu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartanti taddhama paramam mama. Avyaktaha, unmanifested. Aksharaha, infallible. Iti, thus. Uktaha, said. Tam, that which. Ahuhu, is known. Paramam, ultimate. Gatim, destination. Yam, that which. Prapya, gaining. Na, never. Nivartante, comes back. Taddhama, that abode. Paramam, supreme. Mama, mine. Translation. That supreme abode is called unmanifested and infallible. It is the supreme destination. When one goes there, he never comes back. That is my supreme abode. Purport. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dhama, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavana, is full of palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees which are called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand. And there are cows known as Surabhi cows, which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, and he is called Govinda, the primal Lord, and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow his flute, Venum Kvanantam. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like the lotus petals, and the color of his body like clouds. is so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. In the Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavana, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahmā Samhita. Vedic literature states that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavana, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavana, located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended on this earth, he sported on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavana in the district of Mathura. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshatah Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yache Punah Punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhojam Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. A few readings ago, we had a discussion on a lecture that Prabhupada had given regarding the life of Lord Brahma, the duration of life of Chaturmukha Brahma. Prabhupada explained in one place, our Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion years and so many 100 millions of years. Now, from the calculation of human beings in this life, if somebody in this age lives a life of approximately 100 years, it is considered a very long duration of life. Most people do not live that long. In the age of Kali Yuga, the Srimad Bhagavatam describes prayena alpayusha, that in most cases people have a short duration of life. And unfortunately, mandaha sumanda matayo, people are lazy and not very intelligent spiritually. So it is a situation that for most people in this material world, in the age of Kali Yuga, it is difficult to understand topics of spiritual nature. Here in this particular section of Bhagavad-gītā, we see that Prabhupada is explaining what happens in this material world when Lord Brahma's life is finished. That the various living entities, according to their karma, Prabhupada describes in text 18, this multitude of living entities comes into being, and at the arrival of Brahma's night, they are annihilated. Then in the purport, Prabhupada explained, when Brahma's life is finally finished, they're all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions and millions of years. Finally, when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, the jivas are captivated by the material world. Now, as we know, this is a very interesting topic, which has generated a lot of discussion amongst many devotees, because it is not so easy to understand for living beings who are conditioned, who have not taken shelter of a bona fide acharya. It is very difficult for them to understand what happens at the end of the material world, at the end of their lives. That's why we see in the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna is very nicely describing dhirastatrana muhyati, that only somebody who becomes dhira, or a sober, self-realized person, is not bewildered by all the changes of the material body and the changes in the material world. We see Prabhupada has explained many times that living beings go through 6 different changes. They are born, they maintain for some time to produce some byproducts, they grow old, they die. In this way, they're subject to the influence of the material energy. Prabhupada explains in one conversation how being in the material world is like being tossed in an ocean relentlessly with 6 big waves called Shad Urmi. Shad Urmi in Sanskrit means 6 waves. What are these 6 waves? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. But how does one come out? Just like we have often discussed, how in the Bhagavad-gītā, Lord Krishna describes that intelligence means Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. To be able to see Anudarshanam, Dukkha Dosha, the fault of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. This is the real problem in the material world. How to solve this problem? Or how does one do that? What is the process of doing that? There is a process, there is a system. This has been practiced since time immemorial by great sages, great acharyas, great sadhus, who come to this world to teach, to guide, to counsel, to bring that transcendental knowledge of how to solve the problems of life based on the instructions of Lord Krishna. That is called the Parampara system. We see in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, our Lord Krishna is described, Evam Paramparapta Praptam Imam Rajarashayu Viduhu, that this Parampara system, this transcendental knowledge, has been passed down in disciplic succession. But in due course of time, the succession became broken. So Krishna is again telling to Arjuna how to solve the problem. He's delivering that same transcendental knowledge. Krishna is very kind and very merciful. That is one of the characteristics of the Supreme Lord. Some of you might be familiar, most of you must have heard of this song composed by King Kulashekar, one of the Alvars, called Mukunda Malastotra. These are very beautiful prayers in Sanskrit, where he is reciting the position, he's explaining the position of the living entity in the material world and the suffering that they're undergoing and how to come out. There's an amazing, if anybody studies this, Prabhupada translated the first 6 or 7 verses of that book, and the rest of the Mukunda Mala Stotra was completed by some of his disciples. This Mukunda Mala Stotra is quite significant because all of the acharyas in our sampradaya, specifically Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, our Srila Prabhupada, and many other acharyas have often quoted from this remarkable prayers because it's a great analysis of how the living entity can come out of this material world. What is the solution? In the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we are familiar with the Shikshastakam, the 8 beautiful prayers written by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he has expressed the essence of bhakti. What is that bhakti? What is that devotion? Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam vajagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktirai tukitvayi. He's expressing that I don't want any wealth, any followers, any beautiful women, or to become a great poet. But what do you want? Everybody in the material world is chasing these things. So what does he want? Bhavad bhaktir aitukit twayi. I just want causeless devotion. Mama janmani janmanishwari. Birth after birth. Sometimes devotees ask me, what Sanskrit prayers are you reciting before the class, before the reading and the explanations? One of these prayers is from Raghunath Das Goswami in a book called Mukta Charita, where he's explaining Adadana Strinam Danter Ida Myachip Punah Punaha, that I put a piece of grass in my mouth and pay my respectful obeisances again and again at the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami, so that I can serve him and become a piece of dust at his lotus feet, birth after birth. These are some very highly elevated devotional sentiments. In the Mukunda Mala Stotra, King Kulashekar expresses the same feeling, the same devotional sentiments that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressing. He expressed Tvad Britya Britya Paricharaka Britya Britya Brityasya Britya iti mam smaralokanata. Then, my dear Lord, I simply want to become the servant of the servant of the servant, birth after birth. He's repeating the same concept 7 times. That is the mindset of a real devotee. That is the mindset and devotional mood of an aspiring devotee who is serious. One should not think, oh, now I've become a devotee, so therefore I can do any nonsense, behave in any kind of nonsensical way, and everything will go very nice. It doesn't work that way. One has to be intelligent. It doesn't matter if one is a man or a woman, whether one is intelligent, a genius, or dumb, whether one is rich or poor, whether one is American, Indian, Polish, Russian, Nigerian, it doesn't matter where. Whether one is beautiful or non-beautiful, whether one is wealthy or not wealthy. These are not consideration. In bhakti, ahetuki apratihata. Causeless, it can be done anywhere at any time. The other day, one devotee sent me a little video on YouTube where Srila Prabhupada explained this service to Krishna can be done anywhere in the world. Even the poorest man can do this service to Krishna. You offer to Krishna a little bit of water, some fruit, a leaf, with some love and devotion. Prabhupada said, Krishna does not need your food. Krishna does not need a feast. He simply wants to see your devotion. We had an interesting story in South India, in Bangalore, when we first went to Bangalore in 1971. What happened at that time, Srila Prabhupada was trying to build the Krishna Balaram temple. So Guru Kripa Swami, myself, and a few brahmacharis, we went there, and we were approaching different men of Karnataka. At that time, the state used to be called Mysore. And we were requesting for donations to become life members and everything. So we were told by a few life members that you should go approach this man. He's a very big silk merchant and he's a Vaishnava. You approach him. He's very wealthy, so you go see him and you ask him for a donation. So we went there. Unfortunately, we were not able to go there in the morning. We went there like late at night when they were closing his big shop. So all the workers were busy folding everything, changing everything, closing the shop. So we went there. The gentleman was very gracious. He received us, offered us some water. And then we proceeded to explain our program to build a temple for Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. He was saying, yes, it is very late. I'm closing the shop. He said, you can ask so many, he tried to avoid by saying, you can ask so many other men. They have money, they can give. He says, yes, but we have also approached you. They've told us to come and see you. So he kept arguing. He says, Swamiji, he says, the God is always everywhere. You can ask so many people. But now the safe is locked up. So we told him, yes, you can release him. You can open that safe and release him and give some money. So he laughed. He was very happy with our argument. Now, when we went to Srila Prabhupada in Bombay and related that story, Srila Prabhupada remarked, yes, that is a good point. You can tell him he can release the money from the safe, but you can also tell him that Krishna does not see how much you give. He sees how much you're keeping for yourself. You tell him like that. Prabhupada had so much transcendental intelligence to explain and to bring people to Krishna. That is the power of the Acharya, of the bona fide authorized Acharya. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it is explained that if one takes shelter of the Acharya, he will know everything. He will understand all the fundamental truths. So we see in this Bhagavad-gītā, this particular section, at so many different points about the position of the living entities, what happens when the material world is finished. There is an interesting description in the Puranas of how the material world, this universe, is dissolved. At the time of dissolution, Lord Shiva, we often see Lord Shiva doing this dance with his little drum, this dim drum that he sings. In India, you often see some children or some sadhus, they'll have this little dim drum. And the more you shake it, the faster it goes. So Lord Shiva does this dance called Tandav Nritya. And he has this big dim drum and he shakes it. And what happens is the sun becomes 12 times hotter. And the whole material world, everything in the universe is burnt to ashes. And Lord Brahmā goes to Vaikuntha. And all the living entities go back in the body of Mahavishnu according to their karma. And Prabhupada described in due course of time, according to their karma, They come back again. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. So how to come out? How to get relief? Relief is available by the mercy of a pure devotee. We sing every day, Sri Guru Charana Padma. Janme Janme Prabhu se Divya Gyan Ride Prakashito. That birth after birth we are praying to remain in the service of the Acharya. Birth after birth. The pure devotee gives us that transcendental knowledge. Divya Gyam Ride Prakashito. That is the transcendental potency and mercy of the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. Interesting in this purport in text number 21, how Srila Prabhupada is quoting from the Brahma Samhita about the abode of Lord Krishna. Just like we have described how Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion years and so many hundreds of million more. And at the end of his life, he goes back to Vaikuntha and everybody on this planet is promoted. Now, this is a very important point. Where do they go? Why do they go there? They go to the spiritual world. Yad gatvana nivartante tadama paramam mama. We've often discussed how in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, text number 9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punara janma naiti mamiti so Arjuna. That, my dear Arjuna, if one remembers, if one understands the nature, the transcendental nature, Janma karma chame divyam, he doesn't have to come back here to this material world. Very important point. Because many times devotees will ask the question, well, that's nice talk, but do we have any evidence during Prabhupada's manifested presence of devotees who have actually achieved perfection in Krishna consciousness and gone back to Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan? And Srila Prabhupada had two disciples who did that. One of them was Jayananda, another of them was Sudama Maharaj. In the case of Sudama Maharaj, Prabhupada had requested wanted some devotees to go to Japan to start the Krishna Consciousness movement. So one of Prabhupada asked one of his servants if he would go there, and the servant says, well, I'd rather stay here with you, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says, yeah, that is okay. That is fine. You can stay here. When Sudama heard about that, he told Prabhupada, oh, I'll go there, Prabhupada. I'll go to Japan for you. So the day when he was ready to go to the airport, Srila Prabhupada embraced him and he told him, for you volunteering to go to Japan to start the Krishna Consciousness movement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself will come to you at the time of death and bring you back to Godhead. He got that benediction. Interesting, at the time of his departure, he was, he had Ganges water on his head and tilak and dhoti and kurta, and hearing the Maha Mantra, he was in completely clear consciousness, fully absorbed in hearing the Maha Mantra and hearing the message of Krishna. Very important point. Very important point. That is Krishna's promise. And what is that abode? The Brahma Samhita has beautiful description of the spiritual world. Beautiful description. Even in this material world, in the higher planets, it is described the inhabitants there are thousands of times more beautiful and attractive than any man or woman in this planet. Now, sometimes it may be very difficult for people to conceive of such a thing, but that is even within the material world. What to speak of the spiritual world in Vaikuntha, in Goloka Vrindavan. And that is the power of the pure devotee to deliver living entities. We see in the songs of Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, that they describe many times the power of a pure devotee, of a fully realized, completely pure devotee. that such a person has so much power, he can deliver anyone by his mercy, by his kindness. When devotees were distributing books in the 1970s, several times people would ask questions, well, why are we distributing all these books? What are we doing? What are all these books all about? And many times Prabhupada would explain, even if they touch the book, they'll be benefited. Another place, even if they keep the book in their house, even if they don't read it, if they keep it in the house, they'll be transcendently benefited. Many times people ask Srila Prabhupada, when we go in Samkirtan, what about those people that they hear the Maha Mantra once? Prabhupada, they're guaranteed to get another human form of life in the next life, even if they hear it once. So there are so many transcendental benedictions and transcendental benefits to come in contact with a pure devotee. And one has to be very careful how he behaves with other devotees. We have seen many times that Srila Prabhupada have given many good advice in his books, many positive things which one should do, but also what one should not do. I'm going to read a few portions from Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, Text number 17. This is regarding the explanation of devotional service by Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti. Srila Prabhupada says, in Bhagavad-gītā, there is reference to Bodhayantaha Parasparam, discussing among themselves. Generally, pure devotees utilize their valuable time in chanting and discussing various activities of Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya amongst themselves. There are innumerable books such as the Puranas, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gītā, and Upanishads, which contain countless subjects for discussion amongst two devotees or more. Friendship should be cemented between persons with mutual interest and understanding. Such persons are said to be svajati, of the same caste. The devotee should avoid a person whose character is not fixed in the standard understanding, even though he may be a Vaishnava or a devotee of Krishna. If his character is not correctly representative, then he should be avoided. One should steadily control the senses and the mind and strictly follow the rules and regulations, and he should make friendships with persons of the same standard. In the same chapter, Canto 3, Chapter 29, Text number 8, there's also another very interesting purport. One who approaches the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, but who is proud of his personality, envious of others, or vengeful, is in the mode of anger. He thinks that he is the best devotee. Devotional service executed in this way is not pure. It is mixed and is of the lowest grade, tamasaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur advises that a Vaishnava who is not of good character should be avoided. A Vaishnava is one who has taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the ultimate goal of life. But if one is not pure and still has motives, then he is not a Vaishnava of the first order of good character. One may offer his respects to such a Vaishnava because he has accepted the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal of life. But one should not keep company with a Vaishnava who is in the mode of ignorance. Now somebody may ask, why read this? What is the idea behind this? Well, because the question comes up, why is it that some devotees are not affiliating or associating with many of the leaders of the Krishna Consciousness Movement's official society, ISKCON. Now, if one reads Srila Prabhupada's books and carefully studies his purports, his instructions, there is proper instructions for everything. There's no need to be despondent or bewildered or confused. Everything is given there. Everything is explained properly. Simply one has to hear. Iti Shushramadiranam. In the Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, it is described, one should hear from the Dhira, the perfectly realized soul, who is not disturbed by the whirlpool of material nature. This is a very important point. Now we'll go to the next phase of the program. Vishwakarma Prabhu will make some comments, and then we will read a few paragraphs from a lecture that Prabhupada gave in 1966 with regards to that same verse of Bhagavad-gītā. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for that wonderful discussion on Bhagavad-gītā. It brought me back in time, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, 50 years ago, when I had a chance to associate with yourself and your colleague, Guru Kripa Swami, when you spoke so brilliantly on the subject matter of Krishna consciousness. And it reveals to all of us the timeless nature of Krishna consciousness, the knowledge that it's not a dated subject matter that's based on material circumstances. Like we've had this situation come up where people had decided that there's a new era of spiritual life that you should be involved in. It's called PPB, Post-Prabhupada Books. In other words, our philosophy should be changed in order to accommodate the situation in the modern world, which is based on mental speculation and madness. Actually, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, it's very clear to see that in this Kali Yuga, people are completely insane. This insanity, almost everyone is crazy, completely insane. Here we're discussing, everyone, about who goes back to Godhead. And Yaśodā-nandana cited how many people? Two people. Not 2,000. Two people, Jayananda and Sudama, who I had the pleasure of meeting as well. He gave us the deities at Gerrard Street, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. Back in the 70s, he came on a traveling Sankirtan party, and he had a wooden set of Gaur-Nitai deities, and he blessed the Toronto temple on Gerrard Street by leaving those Gaur-Nitai deities with us, which are still being worshipped in the Toronto temple. So devotional service is a very rare opportunity. And the opportunity to serve a pure devotee is even more exceptional. We're hearing here, and Yaśodā-nandana spoke so nicely about how long this material world is in existence. It's for trillions of years. And all of us, we live for a few years. hardly any time. Of course, people, when you're a youthful person, you have no idea, because youth is a very difficult time. There's so much to learn as you move along, provided you get the time. It's not a guarantee that you'll live forever, even at up to 80 years. So many people are dying. But at the same time, you have to take advantage of the opportunity, which is very rare. So it's a bad bargain for the spirit soul, this material body. Why? Because of birth, death, disease, and old age. It is important to understand how we got here. Not how we got here, but how to get out of here. There's a lot of questions, Yaśodā Prabhu. You know that people discuss, well, why, how did you get here? What are the circumstances? Well, there are lots of different reasons, but the most important thing is when you become situated at the lotus feet of the spiritual master, you have an opportunity to get out of here. And that's what we should take advantage of. It is no place, Prabhupada would say to us, it is no place for a gentleman. It's not. Right now we're on the threat of nuclear war. At any moment, things could change dramatically. And all our so-called convenience, our so-called life will be shattered. And this will be very unfortunate, because at least we've got a situation here where we're able to communicate globally with everyone and help each other become fixed up in Krishna consciousness. Help each other. Here it is concisely described in these purports. And I wanted to, just before I finish here and turn the class back over to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, go to the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, text 42. In transcendental knowledge. Therefore, text 42, therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge, armed with yoga. O Bharata, stand and fight. So this next purport, we'll go through the purport, just pick out specific sections which are very, very important for us to understand in this process. The yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatana Yoga, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. This yoga has 2 divisions of sacrificial actions. One is called sacrifice of one's material possessions, and the other is called knowledge of self, which is pure spiritual activity. If sacrifice of one's material possessions is not dovetailed for spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. But one who performs such sacrifices with a spiritual objective or in devotional service makes a perfect sacrifice. When we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into 2, namely understanding one's own self or one's constitutional position, and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who follows the path of the Gita, as it can be very easily understood, these 2 important divisions of spiritual knowledge, from him there is no difficulty in obtaining perfect knowledge of the self as a part and parcel of the Lord. And such understanding is beneficial for such a person who easily understands the transcendental activities of the Lord. In the beginning of this chapter, the transcendental activities of the Lord were discussed by the Supreme Lord himself. One who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless. and is to be considered to be misusing the fragmental independence awarded by him to him by the Lord. In spite of instructions, one who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as the eternal, blissful, all-knowing Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly fool number one. I had a recent person visit me. I was talking to him about Krishna consciousness. He was a total fool. Ignorance can be removed by the gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is awakened by different types of sacrifice to the demigods, sacrifice by Brahmā, sacrifice in celibacy and household life, in controlling the senses and practicing mystic yoga, in penance, in foregoing material possessions, in studying the Vedas and partaking of the social institution called Varnashram Dharma. So quite a comprehensive list there. All these are known as sacrifice, and all of them are based on regulated action. But within all these activities, the important factor is self-realization. One who seeks that objective is the real student of Bhagavad-gītā, and one who doubts the authority of Krishna falls back. One is therefore, okay, and here's the critical part of this purport for us. One is therefore advised to study Bhagavad-gītā or any other scripture under a bona fide spiritual master with service and surrender. A bona fide spiritual master is in the disciplic succession from time eternal. And he does not deviate at all from the instructions of the Supreme Lord as they were imparted millions of years ago to the sun god, from whom the instruction of Bhagavad-gītā have come down to the earthly kingdom. One should therefore follow the path of Bhagavad-gītā as expressed in the Gita itself, and beware of self-interested people after personal aggrandizement who deviate others from the actual path. The Lord is definitely the Supreme Person, and his activities are transcendental. Here's the last critical verse or a sentence. One who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of his study of the Gita. So it's all a question of attitude. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
Thank you very much for that. Wanted to make a few remarks. I often see on the screen here, behind Vijay Pandit in Italy, there's a beautiful picture of Lord Chaitanya dancing. Behind Balaram Prabhu in Turkey, there's a big picture of Srila Prabhupada on his Vyasasana. And we'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Prema Shakti Devi Dasi, wherever she is. I believe it's one of the first time we've seen her, but very welcome, Mataji, and everybody who participates. What we're going to do here now, we're going to read from a lecture Prabhupada gave in New York, USA, on November 17, 1966. November 17, 1966, Srila Prabhupada made a long lecture on Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 8, from text 15 to 20. In the middle of this lecture, Srila Prabhupada explains, then you may ask why people are so much anxious to go to other planets. The description of other planets is there also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now here it is said, the Brahmaloka, because there are many yogis and many, I mean to say, philosophers. They aim at being elevated to the higher planets by their yogic process. Why? Because the facilities of life in the higher planets are more than in this planet. The duration of life, the enjoyment, and the amenities, and everything is better. 1,000 times better, 1,000 times better. So people like somebody like that, we shall go to the heavenly planets, or this planet, that planet. Now, Some of the description of the higher planet is given here. What is that? Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam iteho ratra vidu janaha. Now here is a nice description of the highest planet of this universe. What is that? Now Sahasra yuga paryantam. Sahasra yuga means, Yam yuga means 43 lakh of years. That means 4,300,000 of years. That is the duration of one yuga. In Sahasra yuga, Sahasra means 1,000. That 4,300,000 of years just multiplied by another 1,000. Now we calculate. I am not mathematician. You can calculate what is that duration. So that duration, long duration, 4350 into 1,000, that means 4350, again 30. Now what is that duration? That is calculated to be 12 hours of Brahma. As you've got 12 hours from morning 6 to evening 6. So this duration of period in the Brahma Loka is 43 and 50 into 30. Just imagine. That is 12 hours. Similarly, another 12 hours, night, same period. So that becomes one complete 24 hours of Brahma, Brahma Loka. In such 1 month, in such 1 year and 100 years duration of life is there. Sahasra yuga paryantam haryad brahmano viduhu. That is the duration of life there. You cannot calculate how long you can live there. But still, after so many years, millions and trillions of years life, you'll have to die. Death is there. Death you cannot. Unless you go into the spiritual planets, there is no escape from death. So abrahma bhavana lokaha, abrahma yuga paryantam, sahasra yuga paryantam haryad brahmano viduhu, ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vidu janaha, avyaktad vyaktaya sarvaha, prabhavanti haragame. Now there's duration of Brahma, the material manifestation in a lower status, this planetary system. When Brahma days is finished, all these planetary systems becomes covered in water. There is devastation, when again Brahma, the supreme person in the Brahma Loka, he rises up, then again creation begins. That is the law of creation. So avyaktad vyaktaya sarvaha prabhavanti haragame. Aha. Aha means in the daytime. When there is daytime 12 hours, then this material manifestation, what you see, all these planets, they are manifested, seen. When there is nighttime, all these planetary system becomes merged into devastation of water. Suratriagrame praliyante tatreva avyakta samyake. Ratri agame means when the night is there, then again, all these planets become invisible. They are devastated within the water. This is the nature of this material world. Bhutagramaha saevayam bhutva praliyate. So because the whole planetary system becomes, merge into devastation of water, therefore all living entities, they at that time, pralaya, devastation, they all die. Bhutagramaha saevayam bhutva praliyate. So this nature is going on. When it is daytime, they're again coming out. When there is nighttime, they again all becomes merged into this water. Ratriagame avashaha parta prabhavati haragame avashaha. Avashaha means although they do not like devastation, the devastation will come. And overflood all this. And again, when the day also comes, again, gradually the waters will disappear. Just like in this planet, the 3/4 is covered with water, and gradually land is coming out. It takes time. And one day it will come when there will be no water, simply land. There will be no water. That is the process of nature. Parastasmat tu bhavo anyaha. Parastasmat tu bhavaha anyaha avyakto vyaksanatana. But my dear Arjuna, beyond this place of sometimes it is appearing, sometimes it is disappearing, beyond this there is another nature. Just take this information from Bhagavad-gītā. We cannot calculate what is the length and breadth of this universe, but there are millions and millions of universes like this within this material world. And above this material world, there is another sky, which is called spiritual sky. And in that sky, the planets are all eternal, and their life is eternal also. So that is quite a very sweet description by Srila Prabhupada of the nature and the temporary nature of this material world and the eternal nature of the spiritual world. Very important distinction. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you very much. And I'm looking here to see who's with us today in the class. Janice Priya in Hawaii has joined us, and very senior Vaishnava in our tradition, very sincere and very committed to the Sankirtan process that Srila Prabhupada gifted us with. And I was hoping he could make a comment further on today's topics. Janice Priya in Hawaii.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. As always, I'm very grateful to be able to associate with great souls, sincere devotees. And I was just thinking before you asked me to say something, I was just thinking that what is the greatest treasure that Srila Prabhupada gave to this world? And then, of course, is his original books. Because he said, temples might fail, devotees might fail, and we see in this. He said, but my books, they will remain there. Prabhupada told one time in LA, the Sankirtan devotees, because they were very proud, and he said, you may be all nonsense. And he says, well, that's fine, because you're distributing my books, and my books are not nonsense. So therefore, you also become perfect. So this is Srila Prabhupada's mercy, and these books are such a great treasure. And those devotees who are fortunate enough to have the original 1972 books, it's the greatest treasure that we could have. There's nothing worth anything more anywhere. Why? Because this could stop the cycle of samsara. This could be the end of going up and down, up and down, up and down, not knowing where. Prabhupada, one time in a lecture, he says, yeah, next life you will become a dog. And then somebody was thinking in his mind, he's thinking of a German Shepherd dog and some suburb. Little doggy house. Dogs in India, and if you've seen the dogs in India, they have half of their skin, half of their hair, and their tail goes in 3 different directions from so much suffering. So this is what Prabhupada is referring to. So we have to become very careful and really, especially for those of us, especially for me, I got one 3/4 of my other foot in the grave. And to waste time trying to endeavor for anything at this stage of our life is like Jeep Jago, and I'm talking to myself. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you very much for those insights and your explanation of Prabhupada's instructions for us, and which is critical to the understanding that we should each have every day in the conducting of our affairs. I wanted to take a moment to put up the rules of conduct for our group before we end the class or discussion, just so that everyone has an understanding that there's a sadhana program built into this global participation, which involves many components. Because Krishna consciousness, it's like preparing a beautiful doll for offering to Krishna. You have to know all the ingredients. And then the feast comes together by the expert technique of the cook or the chef. So here are the rules for everyone to review. We request this is a request for everyone, for their benefit and for each one of us, to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra daily, and to read Srila Prabhupada's original books exclusively. I was, Janice Priya, thank you for mentioning that about the books, because when you take on this program of study, it's a window into the spiritual world. It reveals everything to you. That's something that's personal to each one of us. And therefore, reading these books is key to your advancement in spiritual life, all of us. Follow the 4 regulated principles. This also is part of this process. And by doing this, your vijnanam, this is not simply jnanam, it is vijnanam, realization by practice. Then you have some depth in your character, not superficial, like mental speculation. Everyone is speculating. This is difficult, but practice makes perfect. Number 4, offer your food to Krishna and eat only prasadam, and when possible, share your prasadam with others. So always a program, everyone, to share your foodstuffs with others. Figure out a way and carry on that process daily. And go down, please. Preach to everyone you meet to become a devotee of Krishna. This key, because this will always keep you fixed up in Krishna consciousness, because people are always asking questions, and we have a multitude of people here in this area that we're dealing with all the time. We're talking to them and trying to help them become Krishna conscious, take up the spiritual path. And in this way, it keeps you Krishna conscious. Distribute original Prabhupada books to everyone that is eligible to receive them. Again, Janice Priya spoke so nicely about that. And the knowledge of spiritual life is there for everyone if they're ready to take it. Not be unfaithful, be faithful. Attend the weekly PDA classes. This is a sadhana program, everyone. Bhagavad-gītā is on Saturday. Bhagavatam tomorrow. We're looking forward to that. Srimad Bhagavatam reading from the original 62 Bhagavatam. There's nothing more blissful than that. And on Wednesdays, we have our Chaitanya Charitamrita Wednesday night readings. And we follow in the footsteps of our esteemed God brothers like Jayananda Prabhu, and pledge to serve our mission in a humble state of mind as the servant of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So we want to thank everyone for attending today's Bhagavad-gītā class. We are going to be holding new programs which deal specifically with other topics that have been discussed previously after our classes. But now we're going to focus specifically on our Krishna consciousness philosophy in these classes. And we hope you enjoy them. We're going to ask our production chief to please bring forward the kirtan. Try to play it for 5 minutes if you could, and everybody chant along. And all glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Excellent. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let us pay our humble obeisances unto the assembled devotees. Vanchakalpa,
Kalpatarubhyasya
Kripa
Kriya Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. I think that Balaram Prabhu had a question. He raised his hand for quite a while. Do we want to accommodate his question?
I didn't see his hand, sorry. If you want to have one question, or we can save it till tomorrow, Yaśodā, it's up to you.
Sure. You want to come back tomorrow, Prabhu? Balaram Prabhu? Okay. All right. Sounds good. Hare Krishna. All glories
Tomorrow
to Srila
morning,
Prabhupada.
10 a.m.
Hare Krishna.